You guys about ready to start? I've already lost the gallery function on the images, so I'm going to kind of be flying blind a little bit on some of these shots. If the pictures don't exactly match what we're talking about, please forgive. We've had a few technical difficulties here today. You're here for the Filmation panel, and those of you in the audience, I'm sure many of you grew up watching Filmation cartoons. Did anybody not watch them in their original run, only in reruns or DVDs? Yeah. Just a couple of you. All right, good. The rest of you are all older. You may recognize some of the faces on the panel here, so I'm going to get right into introducing them. Down at the very end is Buzz Dixon. He was a Filmation writer for such as Tarzan and the Super 7, Brave Star, and The Fabulous Funnies. Buzz Dixon. Next to him is the master of the cosmos. Dragos himself, Sid Haig. Next to him is probably the person who was the youngest member of the Filmation family before he was actually hired at Filmation. And I'll let him tell that story in a little bit. But he was an animator at Filmation, was one of their youngest animators ever. Daryl McNeil. All right, so next to him is Tom Tataranowitz, one of the best directors that Filmation ever had. And this young gentleman right here, Mr. Lou Scheimer. I think they'll be on their feet here in a moment again. We have a very special surprise for Lou, which even his wife and for that surprise, I'd like to bring to the stage Gary Sassman from Comic-Con.
Thank you. Everybody's here for the same reason. We all grew up waiting for Saturday morning. And the gentleman that's up here today, Mr. Scheimer, is a large part of all our memories of Saturday mornings over the years. And it's my honor on behalf of Comic-Con International to be here today to present to him, as I
Lou's autobiography, but it's also about the history of television animation and the history of Filmation Studios and all the amazing innovations that Filmation brought to animation, to our lives. Over the course of the panel here, I do want to get this out of the way. At the start, Lou's very honest about the fact that he's battling Parkinson's. So if there are elements where he doesn't remember an answer to a question or something like that, we will fill in for him because we're all Filmation fans, and many of the people up here, well, everyone except me worked for him at some point. So we just wanted to get that out of the way so that there was no questions and so forth about
He
that.
says it would work.
But I didn't. All right, so I'm going to scroll through a couple of pictures, and then we're going to have some of our Filmation people talk a little bit about some of the things they did. We also have a couple of video clips about, well, one is specifically about our actor who's here on the panel, and we have a never-before-seen Filmation cartoon that's 8 minutes long that we will debut here at Comic-Con. Never before seen, never to be seen again. Something really cool that I felt I would share with you. So over here, we got Lou. Can you see the screen over there? This is back in the 1960s. This is Lou with Nora Prescott and Hal Sutherland. And that's the original Filmation Studios, correct?
No, I was the original one.
Can you all hear him at all, by the way? Yeah. Get the microphone a little closer.
You can hear me now? I'm sorry for that.
Okay, let's see if I can get this working. So this was one of the cartoons. These are the types of things you're going to be seeing in the book, by the way. Some fairly rare images and some fun images over the years. This is a cartoon that was done and was used on the Filmation holiday cards and so forth. Amazingly, Lou kind of looks exactly like that to this day. And that was done in 1966.
I'm the old one in the middle.
I posed you, remember? That took hours. He wanted to do it naked, but we decided not to.
Nice.
That's Lou as a baby, obviously, and Lou is a sprightly, well, I don't know how old you were at that point. I think you were 81, something like that.
I don't know.
All right, so this was the original Filmation Studios, the first building that Filmation had. This is the famous 25 years of Filmation poster that was given out to employees and fans during the 25-year anniversary of Filmation. It has every character ever done by Filmation on it. And you can own a facsimile of that poster if you come to Lou and I's signing at the Tomorrow's booth immediately after this panel from, let's see, is it 1 to 2, 12:30 to 1:30, something like that. Half an hour after this panel ends, we'll be signing that. Will you bring me up? All right, this was the original, that's the second credits. This is the original style of the end credits for Filmation Studios. Notice that Lou's name is on top. That bothered Norm, so they came up with the style of credits that most of us know, which was, which is this style, which revolved in a circle. And Lou, do you remember any of the specifics around that?
No.
It frustrated him that no matter the fact that they spun around in a circle, Norm's name always ended up on top of the end.
He paid for it.
And Daryl, you have a story about this specific, the series that this end credit is from. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what your first appearance in Filmation was?
Okay, well, it wasn't this series, the one after this.
show called Archie's Funhouse, which was the Archie series, the third version of the show, which they had us, well, it was in front of a live audience. So we pretty much went down to an old movie theater here in San Diego, and a bunch of us kids just pretty much sat there and looked at the blue screen and yelled, "Hey Archie!" a lot. And one of the best shots of me that I could think of was a shot of me sitting there looking up at Archie's lights. And you can read it that much you look.
Let's see.
He paid me to get a job.
And I'm paying for it ever since.
This is the second Filmation Studios. This was their largest studio until the 1980s. And their sign was the infamous Filmation logo.
That was the studio where the cop almost shot Tarzan.
Tell us about that.
They had a 7-foot-tall plywood cutout of Tarzan on the second landing of the stairwell. And one night there was a break-in, and they called Don Christensen, I think, to come in and open it up so the cops could come and check the studio out. Don opens it up, the cops go in, look up, and there's this giant naked guy at the top of the stairs. Whip out their gun, and then they realize it's a cutout. They almost plugged Tarzan into the
All right. So this is one of the catalogs that Filmation produced in 1985. And I'm going to scroll through it fairly quickly so that you can see some of the images of some of the shows that Filmation produced. There's of course the Archie show, Archie and Sabrina's Surprise Package, and Art 2 was one of their first. Actually, it was the first live-action show. Black Star, the first TV show to feature a Native American as a lead character. Fabulous Funnies. Fat Albert and Cosby Kids, and various Christmas specials. Freddy Cat and Freedom Force. Ghostbusters, this is the real Ghostbusters. The real Ghostbusters. Filmation actually produced a live-action Ghostbusters series in the 1970s, which they then appropriated the name of for the movie, and then paid Filmation a whole bunch of money afterwards because they weren't supposed to use that name. Groovy Ghoulies and He-Man, Masters of the Universe. He-Man and She-Ra, Hero High. Secrets of Isis. And Jason and Starkman. Mike and Stark there. So you can cue the video here. We have video of Sid in this.
Foolish humans like you will never understand my powers, Jason. At this moment,
Less audio.
is going to do what they please running towards you. Totally unaware of the fact that my Red Dragon squadrons are poised for a full-scale attack on them. I give the word. Make a break for the door. The mini can't escape on us there.
There's a Draco standing right there.
It's just an illusion. Break right through it. And you, Jason, have led them into my ambush. What could be more brilliant? Get to all sectors. Star Command prisoners have escaped. Find them and bring them to me immediately. Fools! They'll warn the Academy. Attention all Red Dragon squadrons. Begin your assault mission immediately. That was a mistake.
This was done way before high-tech and green screens and CGI and all of that stuff. There were little dots on the floor here and there wherever I appeared, and the camera was locked off. I mean, to the point where it whatever part of that scene in each and every little spot, and then it was like A, B, C, and D roll all smashed together, and that's how they got that. It was crazy doing it.
Can you do that live?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's getting better.
I'm working on it. Part 2.
Now, Sid, you actually, you got the role in a movie because of your role here. You want to tell us about that?
I got a role in a movie because of my role. Oh, yes, oh, of course. I was at Rob, not name dropping, but I got to tell the story. I was at Rob Zombie's wedding and reception, and I was standing there talking to his brother, and he said, "This is really weird." I said, "What, the wedding?" And he said, "No, I'm standing here talking to you." I said, "What the hell are you talking about?" He goes, "When Rob and I were kids, we used to get up every Saturday morning and watch Jason and Star Command." And he just was kind of following the same genre of films that I had been doing for years. And at one point he said, "If I ever get to direct a movie, I want that guy in it." And House of a Thousand Corpses, Banco. Which just proves, watch what you're doing, because it can either come back and give you a gift or bite you in the ass.
All right, Penny's up.
All right, so lastly, the Rescue Rangers, the Lone Ranger.
Yes.
Hold on, just skip over.
Shazam.
Let me skip over. My favorite Martians and Sabrina. It apparently wants to go past Shazam. And the other stuff here. Boy, this is touchy. Secret of the Sword and Shazam. Some of you may not be aware, but tomorrow there will be a Shazam panel that Warner Brothers is doing because they're finally releasing Shazam on DVD.
All right. Finally.
And Michael Gray, who played Billy Batson, will be signing autographs at Autograph Alley. It's his first convention appearance in over 20 years. And so you can have a chance to have Billy Batson say the magic word to you and sign in some photos. She-Ra, Princess of Power. Special. We just skipped over Space Academy. Okay, it's going to skip Space Academy. U.S. of Archie, Wacky and Packy, one of the lesser known Filmation properties. Secret Lives of Waldo, Kitty, New Adventures of Zorro.
Yeah.
Find that in my house.
This was actually an animation project that Lou did for Warner way back when. That was Jack Benny as a mouse. Lou did the backgrounds for this. There's we get to the PDF. I'm going to go to some questions to our panelists while maybe our tech guy can come up here and get the PDF working. Thank you. So, our panelists, Buzz Dixon, how did you get your start at Filmation, and what are some of your best or fondest or funniest memories other than Tarzan?
I got my job at Filmation. I had just been discharged from the Army. This was 1978. I applied to USC's film school and been accepted, but the film school didn't start until October, and it was February when I was discharged. So I thought I'll just try all the studios in town, see if I can get a job in the mailroom as a driver or something like that, just get my feet wet in the industry before going to film school. Well, I had been a journalist for the Army, a newspaper editor, and I had written short stories. And I started with Universal Studios and eventually worked my way down to Filmation. Sorry. And Arthur Nadell was their live action producer. And he wasn't doing anything at the time because they weren't in production, so he agreed to meet with me, talked with me, found out I had written some short stories. So I gave him a few of the short stories as a Lou was on vacation in Hawaii at that time. Arthur forwarded the stories to Lou, and he asked me if I could come up with some ideas for Space Academy. So I threw up a couple of ideas for Space Academy, gave them, they weren't used eventually, but I at least presented them to Arthur. And when Lou came back, Arthur showed the ideas I'd come up with Space Academy to Lou. And Lou says, well, we need another staff writer, but I don't know who to hire, the guy who wrote the short stories or the guy who wrote these premises. And Arthur said, they're the same guy, and he said, get him. And that's where my film writing career started. And I ended up never going to film school. I was just writing cartoons from that point on. You are responsible for my career in no very small part, and my wife will never forgive you for it. No, she's not here. She's good.
Sorry, guys.
Lou is a great guy. I want to say one thing. He is an unsung hero of the American animation industry because at a time when everybody else was outsourcing, this guy stretched every penny to do it in the U.S.
And look what I got out of it.
Well, speaking of which, Tom, I know you have some strong feelings about this. So, Tom, you want to tell us about your Filmation experience? What made the company so special for you?
Oh. You want the good stories or bland stories? There are no bland stories. We want to know how I started,
Or yes, and what Filmation meant to you, because I know it relates to what Buzz just said.
Well, yeah, I always felt that even to some degree related to Comic-Con, or everything that's going on in popular culture now, kind of emanated from the fact that animation was kept alive in the 80s, because it was about to die out, really. Disney was doing, frankly, a bunch of crap. I mean, Aristocats, Robin Hood, let's get real. And then nothing was really going on. Everything was being sent out of the country. It was all, the animation industry in Los Angeles, or in America for that matter, was dying out. And then Lou came up with the He-Man syndication thing. All of a sudden people were working again. And he sort of dovetailed into, just to go back to, I think I've said this before, there's three people that were really important in animation continuing. One was Ralph Bakshi, because he took my generation and made us realize we kind of liked cartoons and we appreciated getting it done. Without Ralph, I don't think there would still be an animation industry. Spielberg showed that it was profitable to do a feature other than Disney, and Lou honchoed the syndication work, which all of a sudden the animation industry exploded. There was work, there were people, there were ways for people to get into the business, build their careers, and before that was really dying out. There really was nothing going. So that was something Lou really deserves accolades for. And how I got there is I'd been working for Bakshi largely before that, and Fire and Ice and American Pop and stuff like that. And work was hard to come by, and so I was hitting every studio in town, and I went to Filmation. They had some kind of project, and they weren't really saying what it was, and so they would give me tests. So I went in and took the storyboard test, and I took the animation test, and I took the character design test. So of course I got hired for light on somehow. And I think it was because they liked the way I drew anatomy, because I kind of looked with Rosetta and Fire and Ice. And then beyond that, I found Filmation to be a really perfect place to develop my talents, such as art, and my career, because it was a really familial kind of environment. Everybody was working together. You really cared about the people with. Lou always wanted quality pushed. The battle was always the budget and everything, but still, he was always for that. He always wanted it to be better and better and better. It wasn't something of, just get this done and nobody cares what it looks like. There was a feeling like, compared to other studios, that you were there because Lou wanted you there. Having worked at other studios, there was a distinct feeling the people in charge walking down the halls and begrudging the fact that you had a job. So Lou was really instrumental in how I approached the business. I think how you treat crews. Its own way, Filmation was a very artist-oriented studio because Lou was an artist. And it, does that answer the question? Okay.
You're honest.
one of the things that that Filmation has not been given nearly enough credit for is how it treated diversity in its cartoons. Filmation was the first company to feature African American characters on television in cartoons. They were the first company to feature Native American characters. They made it a strong point that all of their series had strong female characters. So Daryl, I know that you grew up watching Filmation and also worked at the company. Can you talk a little bit about that aspect of the diversity of Filmation?
Well, basically, as Mandy said, when I was a kid, I was a big Saturday morning freak. I would watch Superman, Frankenstein Jr., the CBS Live, the ABC stuff, everything. But when the Hardy Boys came on for the first time, I thought it was a kid that looked like me, and that was Pete Jones. I liked the fact that, and they didn't make a big deal about it. He was there, he got the mission, he got the stories. There was no big deal that a black character was, always a group of white kids. And as Filmation continued, you had situations where you had not only black characters in strong roles, you had one show, Space Criminals, where a black woman was the team leader. And that was a difference. You had Asian superheroes that they came up with. I remember, he doesn't know this story, but I know that when Young Sentinels first premiered, ABC had a fit. Because they saw that the show's ratings weren't that great, really, against Super Friends, but they noted they got stuff we don't have. We want heroes like that. And it was actually because of Lou doing the show that Black Vulcan appeared, that Pat Schneeper showed up on the Hanna-Barbera show, and okay, those other guys, the guys who know, and that these characters started coming into other producers' shows. And I give Lou a lot of credit for pushing that. And he did it because he just wanted to. It was a hard thing back then because it was very difficult for networks to want to do shows with black characters because, quote, you couldn't sell them in the South. And Lou didn't care. He just went in and just did it. And eventually especially when Fat Albert came along a couple of years later, and that really kind of knocked a lot of doors down and made the whole idea of doing black characters acceptable, making Asian characters, making rivers any race you wanted to be. And plus, he didn't treat these characters like they were black, like they were everybody. Like you all could watch a Fat Albert show, you can see the kids having fun. It's not about them being poor, not about them, living in the ghetto. It's about a bunch of kids getting together and having a good time and learning on the way. And that's kind of influenced everything and started running TV in ways that even other students didn't want in that. And Lou gets a lot of credit for that.
Filmation was really instrumental in terms of bringing live action to Saturday morning as well in really innovative ways. I mean, Space Academy and Jason of Star Command and R2 and shows like that were, they may look cheaper these days, but back then they were cutting edge. And can you talk in terms of when you were cast as Dragos and the idea of working in children's television? When at that point the only people who were doing live action really was kind of the Crofts, and it was very cartoony, far more over the top than you were.
My involvement in Filmation and Jason Star Command was a testimony to never saying never. Because at one point I said, well, I'll never do a kid's show. Yeah, okay. Cut to that. It was a great experience for me, and yes, it was a family. You always had that feeling that everybody was there supporting you and making sure that everybody was on spot and doing, the best they could. And if there was anything anybody else could do to help, they were there. It was amazing. And I have such great memories, fond memories, poignant memories, and very funny memories, one of which I will share with you now. The studio where we shot that in was basically kind of in an industrial park area. And those places traditionally have salesmen that come by and want to sell you stuff all the time. Okay? And this guy kept coming to Filmation asking to talk to the owner. And receptionist, who was a very sharp young lady, said, well, you know, he's not in. I'm sorry, he's not in. Go away. And the guy kept coming back and coming back and coming back. And one day I was going to the front part of the building in the wardrobe, okay, with the helmet and the cape and 6-inch platform shoes and the laser beam eye. And I walked through, and that salesman was there, and he turned to the secretary and said, who's that? I said, he's the owner. The guy never came back. I'm the killer there. And it was such a great experience because probably some of you, or maybe most of you, don't know that we shot 15 episodes in 5 weeks. Okay? How the hell do you do that? Okay? Well, we didn't have 15 scripts, okay? We had 1 script. And it was, the only way that we could get that done was to shoot like everything that happened in the control room all at the same time in all 15 episodes. Okay? It was probably the most mentally challenging. Don't look at me! You made me engage my brain. Okay? It was probably the most mentally challenging thing that I've ever done because you had to remember where you were in what story and who was doing what to who. And
You owe us a story, by the way.
okay, I'll send you a check. So I just had an amazing time. It was wonderful. It was one of the greatest memories of the 50 years that I've been doing this that I ever had, and everybody was just a class act all the way down the line. It was a great time, and it was a great guy, and a testimony to following your passion. Because as I remember, you started with like 87 cents and a desire, and you took it and built it into this empire. And that doesn't make sense. So,
Awesome.
that's it.
Before we get to the clip, I want to get Tom T. You directed the Brave Star movie. This is your first movie. And Brave Star was the second Native American hero that Filmation did, but it was also fairly involved for Filmation, which did a lot of reuse of animation and things like that. It had a lot of innovation in it. Can you talk a little bit about some of the ways in which Filmation brought innovative ideas to how animation was done?
Well, Lou was, we were dealing with CGI animation before anybody really knew what the hell it was. And there was a room with a couple guys and we were trying to incorporate it into the movie and figure out how to get the cost of animation down and keep it in this country. And so that was an ongoing process, and we used several scenes of that in the Brave Star film. And then Filmation had this thing, maybe you're familiar with, called the stock system, where we could reuse scenes, and it was a cost-saving measure, but the key became how to use it in an aesthetically pleasing way so you can always catch the trick. And that's what I always try to do. And we came up with a stock system on that almost defies belief. Your standard animation stock scene where you have a cell, has a couple of rectangular holes and a regular hole in the middle, and you shoot it. We came up with this thing it had 20 peg holes, and you could reposition it every which way. It was about as close as animation could get to a Rubik's Cube, and it was very complicated, but I think it really upped the quality of the Brave Star series. We could do a lot of stuff. It sort of opened the range for multi-plane kind of shots, using different characters in different positions, and there was a whole lot going on, and Lou was really behind it because I think somehow you figured out that animation just couldn't stay as it was. The quality level had to keep going up. And once again, largely due to what Lou had pioneered with the syndication, everybody was doing shows. There were 65 episodes of everything out there. So he needed to up the quality. He couldn't just get away with using the same headshots over and over and over again. And that became part of what we were doing. Lou was always behind it. I don't think he knew what we were doing. But you let us do it. You let us do it. And that was one of the innovations, not innovation, but that was a step forward. We were really trying to push it and then compete with what was out there. And what other kind of things that they told me about innovation?
A lot of lies.
Yeah, but you know, and just everything about it. Like it was just Lou was always the kind of guy. I give him credit. If you came to something,
You got to give me credit.
if you had an idea, you'd listen to it, and he'd let you try to do it. And we were always watching the budgets, but still, it became a task. I kind of agree with what was said earlier by a couple people here that you had to think differently, and that's really a valuable thing because that sort of became my credo of limitations promote creativity. If you can do just anything, you do just kind of anything, and you can pay for it. But if you have to be really, really clever and make something work, it usually makes for a better end product, I hope.
I said we had. Oh, okay.
I can add one thing about the stock shot system. It'll give you an example of how crazy TV censorship was, though. The Tarzan series used a lot of rotoscoping to make a very smooth, flowing series. And it was a really innovative thing for Saturday morning. And they rotoscoped Tarzan throwing guys, and they would then put different costumes on the guys that he threw. One season, they had him throwing a conquistador over his shoulder. CBS said, fine, no problem with that. Next season, exact same footage, took it, put a Roman centurion costume on it. Oh no, that's too violent, we can't show it.
There was an instance of that in Jason Starkman as well. We were shooting this scene and somebody from Standards and Practices, whatever that is, was on the set, and Jason did something to thwart me for the 800th time. And I slammed my fist on the control panel. Jason! And they said, no, that's violent, that's too scary. You can't do that. And so what they accepted was, Jason. Go figure.
By the time I got to Filmation, I didn't deal with network standards and practices. I had to deal with Scheimer and Adele and standards and practices. So there was always, that was probably my main issue. I would put things in shows or a movie that Lou would make me take out, or Arthur wouldn't care much for. And so that was sort of our self-policing. The Brave Star, we had several scenes I had to delete and redo. The text thing of Louis spit in his face. Stuff that seems really mundane, given where animation is these days, but back then it was like a really big deal. In the Brave Star movie, there was this real big discussion. I was in charge of the rotoscope for the stock scene, so I shot all that. And I see the Brave Star walking away from camp that we were going to use just for a traveling shot. And so for the film, I gave it to the animator, and I told her, it was a female animator, I said, make his walk really sexy from behind, because this is for the girls in the audience. This is what I perceived that was before. And so we did that, and Lou was less than happy with how it came out, and we had to redo that scene. There were any number of things that we'd have to talk about, and I was called on the carpet fairly regularly, wasn't I? No. Yeah, no, my ass. Yeah, and so, but that was part of it. It was all in trying to improve.
All right, so we're going to look really quickly at some pages from the upcoming book, Lou Scheimer, Creating the Filmation Generation, and we're going to show a couple of clips. We're going to show the unaired cartoon, then a clip from a project Daryl's working on, and then we're going to be wrapping up. So this is some pages from the laid-out book. It'll be out on September 26th after a long wait. I know many of you have been asking for years. So this is some pages from early chapters. You obviously can't read them on this screen, and boy, it's not even loading correctly. There we go. It's written like a traditional biography with Lou's voice as the narrative flow. However, there is a huge amount of material in there that covers the history of animation. generation. And the making of the shows themselves, as well as things that happen at Filmation. Crypto peeing on a forest fire in one scene.
Seems reasonable.
There's information there about all the different shows, the music of the Archies. There's rare ads, such as this one, that was run in the trade papers.
Nice.
Pictures of the records, model sheets, information about Star Trek, including some of the designs for the original when they were going to be doing Star Trek in the 1960s while the show was still on the air. And they were going to have the young cast of Star Trek.
Oh.
There's storyboards. There's an autographed card that Lou did for one of the trading card sets. And I think that gives you a few of the pages of the book. It's called Lou Scheimer, Creating the Filmation Generation. It will be out September 26th from tomorrow's, and the signing that we're doing, 12:30 to 1:30, you can get one of the facsimile posters signed by Lou and myself. That'll be today at booth 1301. We're also signing tomorrow at the same booth, and Michael Gray from Shazam will be joining us for that panel. So, right now we're going to roll the footage from an unaired, unseen by anyone except for some network heads who decided to pass on it stupidly, Filmation cartoon that's never been seen by the public. You'll figure out what it is very quickly.
Me too.
Number 2.
Hell of a show.
You can see why the network passed on this.
I passed on it too.
It was new Uncle Croc's block, that's all.
There's one thing about Lou's Filmation that I don't think people talk much about, and it's the fealty to the product that he did. That's affected my career. Tarzan, Flash Gordon, everything that they did, they didn't mock the properties. Many studios, they do something and they had to make it silly, they had to do something that Lou really stuck to, because Lou is really, when you think about like the original fanboy, he was a Prince Valiant fan, which I didn't cover in the book, Flash Gordon, and when he brought these things to the screen, he stuck with the property. Archie's was like the Archies in the comic. Tarzan was the Tarzan you always wanted to see. It wasn't just still Johnny Weissmuller again, and the guy that couldn't talk. This was a real, dignified Tarzan. And that had a real effect, because nowadays in animation, everybody does that kind of stuff. It seems sort of a given. Yeah, we'll do Batman as the Dark Knight. Yeah, we'll do things that are kind of like the comic books. Back then, it wasn't like that. And I think that's a really important part of Lou's legacy. It certainly has affected my career. I try to approach properties that I produced and directed that same thing. If you're adapting the subject matter, it isn't mine to change, it's mine to honor. I should take that and make sure that the fans get what they want of it, not look at something I've done and people go, what you do to my property, I love so much. So I just think people really don't give me credit for it.
Now, 100 years ago, BC, that's before credit cards, Horace Greeley said, "Go west, young man." Of course, 100 years ago, the West was little more than thousands of miles of rolling hills and peaceful Indians.
I'm sorry. And we were forced to read the fort. Well, you just shot a hole in one, Chief.
Meanwhile, back in Washington, the senators were listening to the general, which is pretty unusual for the senators because they're usually in last place. Why don't you send an ambassador to talk to the Indian chief?
Why, son, you took the words right out of my mouth.
that thinks like that. Step right up, folks. I want to tell you about my magic elixir. You said it would grow hair, you old cat! Look! Damn sure! Well, why don't you rub some on your chest and you can become your own lawn? Well, I'll see you later.
Hey, don't you? Why we don't settle down and open up the drugstore?
Don't be silly. What do we know about tuna salad prescription? Or even ask for a milkshake for that matter.
Okay, maybe we open up with a bag. Washington would never believe that story about the Great Stone Face.
Pardon me, sir. Do you know how to get that?
No, I don't.
It's quite easy. All you do is go straight ahead about 30 miles.
Yikes! It's come to life! The Great Stone Face is coming!
Hey, what's all the noise here?
I must get to the White House immediately.
Spoken like a true Republican, but I don't think you'll make it either. Oh, using my elixir. What kind of flowers are you growing out of here?
Why?
Are you sure you're not Jack Pepper? I must have told you that when I was stoned.
The Great Stone Face come to life!
You must be the bride. Who's the groom?
You're the groom!
Me? Oh, you lucky girl, I didn't even know we were engaged.
Minnie Hollow!
My, how time flies. It's Halloween already.
How do you like your new bride?
No bride. For a minute I thought it was King Kong in a nightgown.
Minnie Hollow!
I've heard of shotgun running, but bow and arrows are ridiculous. I'll see you around, Chief.
Who goes today?
Dr. Spock, I'm on a houseboat.
You said the secret word. Come in, friend. Take it away all the time. Oh, come on! Here's one. We'll attack the fort because the Great Stone Face refused to give himself up.
And you? Call yourself soldier?
No, you call us soldier.
Never mind. You, if an enemy took your gun away, what would you do? I'll buy that.
We're actually going to cut it off there just because it goes on for a little ways. And we want to give everyone a chance to say something towards the end. So we have to wrap it up. If everyone wants to just give a final little note here, and how long is your clip, Darren?
52 seconds.
52 seconds. Cue up that KK, that other clip for Daryl, and everyone if you can give just a final thought about Filmation or about movie. That's it.
The very first thing I remember seeing with Filmation's name on it was Fantastic Voyage, and it just impressed me as a kid. It was a lot smarter than anything else I had seen on TV. And everything that I've seen from Filmation has always had a little more going for it than almost anybody else out there. And Lou, you did remarkable work with a really tight budget, and God bless you for it.
I have no memory left. I just remember all the fun times where I would sit in front of the TV and be able to watch some amazing animation, great stories, great characters, and I just feel grateful that I, at some point in my life, was contributing a small part.
I want money from you.
There he goes. I
volunteered against all comments to play a character in it for me. This is basically a little thing. It's kind of my take on the old movie serials and whatnot. And he's playing the lead character's dad. This is the cast of people. I want to make a project that costs pretty much half what any information that we means it'll cost nothing. But I appreciate the fact that he came in and he wanted to do it. I have a little tribute to him next credit. With my producer doing a little circle for me. That's kind of my way, I'm thanking him because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be doing stuff like this right now. And a lot of people in this town owe their animation careers to him. Also, I want to make sure you know that Norm Prescott is no longer with us, and Hal Sutherland was the partner in Filmation. They get credit too. But this man was the ramrod. He pushed everything through. He made us all do a much better job. He put stuff out there that kids nowadays, their parents see, and they go, "You were my childhood." And I tell people, if I was your childhood, he was mine.
Everybody says how much they owe to Lou. Lou still owes me severance pay.
You ain't gonna get it.
No, simply put, the animation industry is a poor place for there not being a Filmation because of what it generated as far as new talent, giving people a place to grow and learn. And that's too bad, but it had its period, and it really was important in the history of animation. And it's nice to see a panel, and I appreciate everybody coming out because Lou does deserve these kind of accolades. He is that important. I'm expecting it.
All right, we'll be doing the signing with Lou Scheimer, creating the Filmation generation in half an hour at booth 1301. Please everyone give a big hand to